Anyway, I only have access to one printer, and it's at school, and I think they'd have a problem with me printing out something that in big letters says bomb defusal manual. It's not a good look.
I think we should say which game we're talking about to give context to that.
Nope, I think it's better without it. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Overthinking Games, podcast about what games can teach us. We're talking about a game called Keep Talking, Nobody Explodes, You Defuse Bombs. We're going to be playing it together here at some point. Hi, my name is Seth. I co-host this podcast. I teach at a school, except it's almost winter break. Thank God.
Thank God.
My co-hosts are numerous, one of whom is Katie.
Hello. I'm also a teacher, and it is also almost winter break. Thank God.
Facts. Katie has a longer break than I do, and I'm a little salty about it. And I also have Dempsey, who's not a teacher.
But I am sick, and so I will be drinking Gatorade Pedialyte for the entirety of this episode and trying my hardest not to cough constantly.
He also sounds like he sings jazz in the 30s.
For real, I'm like, you've got your crooner vibe going. I think it's good for audio only medium.
I'll do some ASMR after this.
Mm-hmm. We just we end the show with a sound bath, like my brother and me.
Yeah.
All right, what are we talking about this week, Seth?
We're going to pick up on the topic that we had talked about doing last week, but we ended up getting distracted. I want to talk about what our unhealthy relationship with games can look like. I have some personal experience from the past week, although I think I'm done. I think I'm officially over that game. We'll see what the coming days have to bring. But first on the topic, we have what we've been playing this week. So, Katie, what have you been playing this week?
Okay, so we did just record on Sunday, I believe.
Yeah, so for context, it hasn't been that long. It's like Thursday.
It's Thursday. And mostly, my section's going to be short. I've mostly been playing Bloons Tower Defense 6. And I discovered... It's been a really busy week. But I discovered there's this game mode called the Odyssey. And I'm actually currently teaching the Odyssey to my 9th graders. So I was super jazzed about that. I'm finding that the Bloons Tower Defense Odyssey is not quite as cool as the actual Odyssey, but, A for effort. I've been discovering there's so many game types in this game. Like, I bought this game for $5, and I kind of, after a little while, I was like, I don't think I'm really going to get, sucked into this much. It's kind of grindy. For context, if you haven't listened to us talk about it 6 million times before this, it is a tower defense game, which means you place down all of your little towers, which are, in this case, monkeys that, fire projectiles and such at balloons. And you hit go, and the balloons come through, and hopefully your towers pop them all before it gets to the end of the run. And it's the only game I've ever played that's like this, and I really like it. But it did get kind of grindy, and I thought, I'm not going to get that into it. And then I started discovering challenge modes and the Odyssey mode and tutorial challenges to use different kinds of boss towers or whatever they're called. And I'm super into it. I like all of the different... I just did one that was with a Dino Master or something, and you have to pop these little eggs. And I've just been having so much fun with that. And it's really a nice one because you can listen to something, I listen to podcasts or an audiobook while I lay in bed in my cozy dark room with the Christmas lights on. And it's the perfect zone out kind of vibe. So I've been enjoying that a lot. But I think that's literally the only thing I've played so far this week. My Steam Deck actually died because I forgot to plug it in and I haven't been using it. It's tragic. So hopefully the weekend will bring some more gaming time is what I'm planning on. What have you been playing, Dempsey?
I do not know if this is news or repetition, but I have finished Alan Wake. And it's a good game. It's an old game. It feels like it was meant for the PS3 because it was. Mm-hmm. it's not that deep. It's not like it feels bad to play, and also the story is not good, and also the dialogue's not good, and so like all the things. Yeah, see,
good?
that's the thing. The vibes. I would say the vibes are good, and that was worth the 25 hours of playing that game.
That's such a Gen Z thing to say.
Yeah. And then, so I really want to play Alan Wake 2. I do not know if I'm ready to play Alan Wake 2. I think I might play Control first.
Like emotional?
Like I don't want to know if I want to play $60 in the middle of like when I'm buying all my Christmas presents for people.
That's fair.
I have like a library of like potentially hundreds. Well, especially because I have PlayStation Plus, like hundreds of games, and also like all the games that I pick up on my Steam sale. So I'm not hurting for games to play. I decided to play Guardians of the Galaxy, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, that's
and
right.
It is really good. Like I'm just so happy with what this game is so far. I'm only like 2.5 hours in. The action is really fun. It's like so far you can only be Peter Quill, but you can like direct the rest of the team. The rest of the team has certain powers, and you can like tell them when and where to use their specific powers, but like while you're also fighting. There's like some strategy to it. All the strategy happens like while you are also in really fast-paced combat.
Is it a little bit Mass Effect-y in that way? Because Mass Effect was
I've
similar
never
to
played
that.
Mass Effect.
Oh. Seth, have you played Mass Effect?
I've got a fun Mass Effect story, but yes, I'll explain it when it's my turn.
Okay. I can't believe you haven't played Mass Effect, Dempsey. You would actually like it. Even though it's a good game.
I like some good games. Anyways, and so yeah, it's been really fun. Although like the characters are really like fun and well written, and the narrative feels spacey and enjoyable. Yeah, it's been great so far. I do not often do this, but I'm gonna hate on an indie game. Now, I feel like it should be said that I do like indie games, and just because I am liking a big AAA game and not liking an indie game does not mean that I think indie games are bad. I feel like I need to say that. I played a game called Sable.
Okay.
Have you guys heard of Sable?
I feel like I've heard of it, but I
feels
don't
open
really know
world.
what it is.
Oh, is this the like PlayStation?
Yeah,
Plus
it's
game
like
right
the
now?
worst kind of open world game I've ever played in my
I need to
life. And like everything that like it's supposed to do, it does not do well, and also it runs poorly. I am not like a frame rate snob, but like it dips down to like 12 frames a second for no reason. It's not like there's a lot going on. It's just like poorly optimized for the console that it's on.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like this game. So this is I think I put 2 hours into Sable. The driving around, which is like the one thing that you do in this game, is like driving your little, it's really reminiscent of like a land speeder in like the Star Wars prequels, you know, where Anakin drives like on a desert alien planet that like, yeah, speed racers.
Speed racer.
Yeah,
Pod
that's like the
racer.
main thing you do. And I do not think it feels good to do that. There's like desert dunes and stuff like that, right? Instead of it feeling like smooth to like go up and over the dunes, it'll like every time you go up and over a dune, you like crash awkwardly, but you can't control your bike in the air. You're just like doomed to crash awkwardly. It's not like a skating game where like the point is to like land a combo or something like that. It's supposed to be like atmospheric, and you're supposed to be like driving through this like desolate wasteland, enjoying the scenery and stuff like that. The very act of driving does not feel good. And I think it might feel good if I like continue to like upgrade my vehicle maybe. And also you feel slow. Like you just feel so slow. There's a so there's one bike that they give you at the beginning of it that is like a bad bike, like it's like a junky bike, and it feels like horrendous to use. And then you build your own. And so I'm like, okay, like once I build my own, it'll feel better. And it did not feel that much better to use. Like it's not a satisfying travel mechanic at all. There's fast travel in it, and I wanted to use the fast travel, which in any like traversal based game is probably a bad sign. It was some of the worst opening quests I've ever played in a game. Like the first like 2 hours were like, I hated everything I was asked to do. And then once I got out into like the open world, instead of it being like, oh, I'm going to kind of explore on my terms, find things that are interesting to me, it doesn't load landmarks from far away. And so if you get lost, you can't orientate yourself until you have to rely on map markers because there's no way to orientate yourself in the world. You can't just like explore freely this desert and like have an adventure upon like what you happen to find. You get a quest, you go to the map marker, you trust that it's leading you in the right direction, and then like the world pops up as it gets closer to you. There's no sense of exploration. Like it might as well be linear. Anyways, that's how I feel about Sable.
That's disappointing. At least you got it for free.
This is a very loved game also. Like a lot of people really love this game. So if you love it, feel free to add us on TikTok and tell me why it's good. But I did not have a good time with it at all.
I wonder if it runs better on like the computer. Is that where it was originally released for? Do you think?
Yeah, because consoles a lot of times are easier to optimize for because you only have to optimize for one set of specifications. And there is a it says like PS5 or whatever. Like that's why you get a console is so you don't have to like deal with unoptimized games.
Oh. I thought you bought a console because PCs are so freaking
that's true.
Expensive.
That Guardians of the Galaxy, good. Sable. Like, if you pitch Sable to me on paper, I would love it. And I think the soundtrack is good. And also, if it kept a low frame rate, like if it was like running at like 24 frames or even like 12 frames a second, I would be fine with it. What happens is it goes from like butter smooth motion with like really good polished motion to like, and then it dips down. And so it's not like a charming aesthetic choice. Like you can tell it's like an unintended technical flaw.
It doesn't feel intentional.
Because like it is kind of like low poly, like it is like not as detailed. It's cell shaded, but this is not. It's not intentional. It's not part of the aesthetic. It's just bad. Okay. Anyways, Seth, what have you been playing?
Interesting.
Rapid transition there. Nothing super exciting. I think from the last time I was talking about stuff, I kept playing some Noida. That's kind of my showcase game for this week. I think I've finally given it up. I went to go play some today. I was picking up like a run from yesterday, and I was like, I don't really want to do this, but like, I guess I will. And then I died after like 30 seconds. Not really. After like, I don't know, 15 minutes of like just kind of micromanaging some stuff. And then like I died pretty quickly, and I was like, oh, I just don't want to do this anymore. And so then I booted up like one more run, and then I was like, I don't really want to play this. So maybe I'm done. We'll have to see. But otherwise, I've been kind of chill playing some Bloons Tower Defense 6. Finally got black borders on all of the beginner maps, which is pretty exciting. That was kind of like a long-term mission for me. Now I get to work on achievements. Woo!
I thought you were saying you weren't going to do that to yourself with this game. You were like, I'm going to let this be my casual game, and now you're achievement hunting.
I mean, that's still like my casual game experience. Is I'm not like, I gotta grind out like tier 5 Bloonarius blondes. That's whatever. But like I like having goals, even if it is like a casual game. Like I need something to be like working towards, even if I can just casually work towards it.
I think that's why I like narrative games. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean that's fair. I've been playing some Slay the Spire. I finally hit Ascension 20 on Silent, which I was pretty excited about. And I pushed up to Ascension 11 on Defect.
Oh, wow, that was fast.
Yeah, some of the lower Ascension levels, like once you kind of get into the groove with the character, you can usually get like a couple wins in a row. And I don't go for heart kills when I do mine. I just go for like building the Ascension levels. So, yeah, it's been fun. I'm kind of stuck at Ascension 11, trying to figure out. I just haven't had like a good run. I haven't been like sitting down and really focusing on it. But that's been good. Noida, Bloons Tower Defense, Slay the Spire. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Although I do want to mention, I want to be hipstery on this one. I was sitting here as we were talking, and I was looking up the one game Dempsey mentioned, and I just found this game called The Norp Apologue. It literally just came out today. It's from an indie publisher. It's a idle clicker roguelite. So shout out this game. I hope it's good, and I get to make the claim that I found it first. Because it literally just came out today.
What is a rogue idle clicker?
I don't know. It's just got a lot of crazy tags on Steam. It was like $6.50. And I was like, I want to play this game. Oh, yeah, I just did. But I just hope this game gets popular so that I can make the claim that I was like super hipster.
So that you can
one.
invite the developer to come onto the show and be our next interview.
That'd be sick. Their Discord server has like 100 people in it.
Cool.
So like, that's pretty.
We knew you when.
I knew you. So,
Cool.
Yeah, that's my whole bit for that.
Awesome. Sorry, our have been playing list is boring except for Dempsey.
Yeah, I've been playing actual games.
No actual games for me.
Okay, I would just like to do a little callback to that time when all Dempsey was playing was Family Feud on his phone for like 3 weeks.
That is something I did.
Okay, cool.
So, this week's topic is for what's maybe our unhealthy relationship with games. Just for a little bit of a backstory, this kind of spurred out. I booted up Noida. Noida is a game that is a roguelite, but it's physics-based. So, I believe the claim is that like every one of the particles in the game is like simulated in the physics engine. So, like when you blow up like the desert, like all the individual like sand pixels go flying, and then like those are all individually simulated.
Wow.
Which is cool. It's cool conceptually in that way. The game is renowned for being very difficult. It definitely carries the roguelite elements where it's like you start a new run and you're starting back from ground zero again. There's no permanent unlockables, kind of. Arguably, like, any unlockable you get just kind of makes your gameplay experience worse in some ways, but, like, easier in some other ones. So, like, you can do everything in the game in a new run. Like, you could boot up a fresh save file, and if you know what you're doing, you could just do everything. And it's not much different from booting up a save file after 1,000 hours, but the main allure for the game is actually the wand and spell building. So your character who's got like a magic wand, and you load up different spells into the wands to cause different effects to happen. And that can go everything from like, I shoot out little spark bolts, pew, 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 to like, I end the world with like a single click of like my like left mouse cursor because it like spawns nukes everywhere and crazy. I can like teleport to parallel worlds. Like this is a Super Mario 64 speedrun where I only do half an A press. What a reference. But anyway, this is a game I bought a long time ago, and it's a game I picked back up recently, and I've been like obsessed with this game. And I think to like a bad degree. I probably like, it's one of the few games I played realistically over the past week. And I was like staying up late to play it. Like I definitely did not get enough sleep this past week. I was going to bed at like 1 a.m. I have to get up at like 6:45 for work. So like not getting enough sleep. I was like, anytime I wasn't playing the game, I was like watching videos on the game. Like I was just like locked into this game in a way that it was like taking away from the other responsibilities I should have been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not healthy, obviously. Like I have adult things I need to do and I can't be spending it like playing games. Mm-hmm. So enough of my monologue. I was curious if either of you guys had some sort of like game experience in the past where you were like, I am way too locked into this. And like, you had to take a step back.
Absolutely. I feel like I've had that experience so many times over the course of my life. I couldn't actually count them all. I tend to be very intensely into things for a short amount of time. Like whether it's video games or like I did horse riding obsessively for a year in high school. Like that was all I did. I mucked out horse stalls and I rode horses. I went into jiu-jitsu and I did that 5 days a week, like for 3 years. And then right now I'm into games. And that's pretty much my main hobby. And so over the years as a gamer, since I was a kid, but especially in high school and stuff, I would go into these really deep, obsessive phases where I would just play most hours of the day. And since I was homeschooled, I didn't have like the structure of a school schedule to force me not to do that. So we used to get what my mom would call gamer's attitude when we played too many. When my brother and I would play too many video games, we'd start to get cranky and snippy, short-tempered. And that was the time. That was the sign that it was time to stop. You know, we had to take a break. I'd say lately, I don't, especially since I've been married, I'm so hyper aware of like making sure that I give my spouse enough of my time and attention and trying to balance like those family relationships that I don't really fall into that as much. But it's probably not the healthiest that sometimes I wish I would get really sick so that I could just lay in bed and play video games constantly for a week. I'm like, ooh, maybe I could get the flu. I could just stay in my bed and play.
Kids like licking doorknobs trying to get sick.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, hi kids, high fives for everyone.
Clap. Clap. One of you will get me sick.
Yeah, exactly. Because that feels like then I would be able to devote the kind of time that I would actually like to.
Yeah, you have like an excuse.
Excuse, exactly. The Gamer's Drink actually did a TikTok video recently. Shout out to the Gamer's Drink. Josh is awesome. But he did one that was talking about how taking time to game is his form of self-care, and that as adult gamers, sometimes it can be hard to like recognize that it's okay to put the time into it and to let that be a dedicated time that you spend doing something just because you like it. And so in that side of things, I don't need to have the flu in order to be able to play as much as I would probably like to. But I still really struggle with that because there's a part of me that would like to just play for 12 hours straight, even now. What about you, Dempsey?
As a teen, no. Because I was bullied into thinking that video games were not cool. I never had a console in my room as well. If I was playing, it was kind of like in the living room with the approval of my parent. As an adult, what I think about video games, and I think a lot of nerd culture and like things that like quote unquote geeky people spend our time doing, for me, I try to do other things besides video games just to avoid social isolation, because like I am not always good with like keeping up with my friends or like making sure that I'm making time to facilitate those social interactions. And a wonderful thing about video games is that a lot of times they can kind of facilitate the feeling of social interaction without like the anxiety and dread that comes with social interaction. That's why a lot of people who have social anxiety, who maybe grew up not knowing they had social anxiety and just thought that everyone hate them, like gravitate towards like nerdy things. It's because it's something that you can enjoy by yourself for a lot of the times. And then when you do find community, it's a lot of times with other people who understand your social anxieties and things like that. I think for me, that's what like quote unquote nerd culture has given me. And I think maybe other people will find that as well. As a grown up, like the biggest thing that I had to fight against, like video games, because I do not have kids. I am currently single and I work a job that does not require much outside of my regular 40 hours. And so like I rock climb and ride my bike and I volunteer weekly. And like I'd had to have other things in my life that are going on. But like it's just really, for me, it's just really important to like not let video games replace friends. And that's a really easy thing for me to do. I guess. Maybe that's a really too sad of an answer. Is that?
No, I think it's because it's sort of my follow-up question, and Katie, you might be a little better situated to answer this than Dempsey or I. But like,
Is it about geriatric
when we
gaming?
talk about no.
Oh my god. No, it's about multiplayer gaming.
No, it's not about that either.
No? Oh.
In terms of because Katie, you're in special education, so when we usually talk about like students who have some sort of like disability, like my understanding is disability is usually defined as like it has some sort of impact on like daily living. Can you give like the more like academic explanation of that?
Yeah, so for like I teach mild to moderate special education. So in that case, like my students are by and large capable of living independently and they are able to do their daily life skills and all of that stuff. More so, their disability impacts their ability to access the general curriculum at school. So whatever their disability is preventing them from being able to have success that they're cognitively capable of at school. So they need special instruction or supports in order to be able to reach that potential that they have.
And I guess part of where I'm trying to think about this. So how, without like the specific detail, obviously, like how does a student or like what is required for a student to get some sort of like disability qualification or like tag?
Oh boy, it's a whole thing. So when they are referred, you first have to do what's called I won't get into all the details, it's very boring, but you first have to do something called RTI, which is response to intervention. At least that's what it's called at our school. And basically that's where you make sure that there's nothing that the general education teachers could do that would solve the problem. Like, maybe they need to sit somewhere else. Maybe they need to go to after-school tutoring, whatever it is. You check to make sure that none of that will work. And then after that, they do cognitive and academic and sometimes behavioral testing, where they do a battery of tests that try to see if there's a pattern of strengths and weaknesses. So are they scoring in such a way that shows they're capable, but then academically they're not necessarily reaching that capability? And then you have meetings upon meetings. And
so maybe a little bit of what I'm getting to, I guess, is like typically we give like a student some sort of disability designation because they have some trait or some quality that's preventing them from like achieving what we believe they could. There's something that's like disrupting that process. So I guess what I'm curious about for this sort of idea of like we can don't draw this relationship in the way that I don't want it to be drawn. But,
don't take this the wrong way. Okay, go for it.
Yeah, don't take this the wrong way. But I mean, because the thought here is on like unhealthy relationships to gaming. Not saying that like having a disability is unhealthy. Don't draw that conclusion from what I'm saying.
Okay.
But like, should we make the connection between like maybe we understand that reaching an unhealthy point for a game for us is like when it becomes disruptive, was kind of what I was thinking. Like at the point where I was like, hey, maybe this game's unhealthy for me to play is because I was like, oh, this is interfering with like the other activities in my life.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So to go back to the SPED parallel, like somebody can have ADHD and not qualify for special education services because it's not impacting their ability to be successful at school. But somebody else could have ADHD and it impacts them significantly enough that it is impairing their ability to be successful at school, in which case then it is something that we want to address and try to help. So I get what you're saying with that. Exactly. Like it's not a problem to game all the time if gaming all the time doesn't mess up your life.
Right. And I think the sort of follow-up question is, where do you think's the borderline between like, hey, this is my hobby and therefore is something like I expect to like engage with on possibly like a daily, a daily occasion versus like, hey, maybe this has become like a little too much. Like for your non-gaming stuff, like Dempsey, you said like you do like bike riding, you do like volunteering, you do like rock climbing. Like how often do you do non-gaming stuff?
Definitely not as often as I do gaming stuff, especially in the wintertime. I'd probably ride my bike like every other day but as soon as like November hits, I put my bike away because it's just too cold.
That's fair.
Because I live in South Dakota. I think your question's really interesting because I think there might be like
Yeah.
different like spheres of influence that I can answer that question in. If it's affecting my work life
Yeah.
versus if it's affecting my personal life or my social life. And I think like depending on which one of those is like, for example, I think like a couple weeks ago, I had to stop playing balloon. So like I would have balloon tower defense running in the background at my work. But as we were talking about it more on the podcast, I started to care more about it. And so it was less like it's something I can run in the background. And so for a little bit, I had to like just like throw on some music or something like that, something less distracting. So I would care less about balloon tower defense at work. And so
funny.
like it's like asking like, okay, like how does this affect my noticing when it affects my job, and like am I feeling like more pressure at work because I'm being able to focus less, and am I being able to focus less because I'm trying to play this game while I'm at work? And sometimes it's great for like little like mini breaks while I'm editing and stuff like that, but like other times
Totally.
But like other times it's like, oh no, I am like trying to give this my full attention and should not be. And so there's like at work, or if it's like in my personal life where like I am not like physically taking care of myself, or I am not like when I get depressed, or like when I'm emotionally off, like I get a lot of fast food a lot faster. For me, cooking is like a really important thing because it takes so much like mental energy. I do not naturally like cooking. I have convinced myself that it's important to cook for myself. When I am stressed, I just want like to grab something on the way home. And so if I am like grabbing something on the way home and then putting a video game on, I'm like, I wonder if I could have like cooked myself instead of playing this video game, because I only have the energy to do one of those things, and I'm consistently picking the video game. If I only have the energy to do one of those things, maybe cooking for myself more often is kind of more important to prioritize right now. And then, or like socially, I haven't seen like another friend in a week. Like I've just like outside of work, I have connected socially with nobody. And I've been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate. Maybe I should like, realize that you like having a relationship with Karlak is like, I am tricking my brain into I am tricking my brain into feeling that way because that is like a safe, like reliable way to have a positive experience, but like that's not like a healthy long-term viable option. And so yeah, I think like not only like is it like when it becomes disruptive and when it is like negatively impacting the rest of your life, but also like what parts of your life does it impact negatively and when.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I had that with when I was hooked on Warzone. Okay, so that's actually more recent. I was so obsessed with Warzone. I just loved it. And it became really important to me socially because my best friend at the time lived up far away, and it was the way that I stayed in touch with her. And it was so important to me to stay in touch with her and to stay close with her that I made sure I played every day so that we could spend time together. Because like she was like a sister to me, and I really valued that relationship. And when my husband finally made it to the States last year, I realized I was like, okay, there's an imbalance here. Like I'm putting more time and effort into maintaining this friendship via playing Warzone than I am in maintaining and like growing my marriage. And it came to a point where like the friendship was actually really toxic, but I was so stuck into like maintaining it through Warzone that I would play Warzone like 3 or 4 hours every single night and then all day on the weekends. And I finally came to a point where the friendship was broken off. And at the time, like it was a really heartbreaking thing. But now that that's gone and I don't feel that compulsion to play Warzone anymore, like I feel like my life has opened up. So now I play different games, way more games than I played in the last 3 years. And I have time for other things. And So I think in that case, like, it really was like a weed in my life that I was using for a good purpose, or I was trying to have a good purpose, but it was actually really an unhealthy relationship with that game. So it's a good thing that it's gone now, for the most part.
Yeah, I think a lot back to growing up, because I was definitely like gamer kid. And Dempsey, like I think I hit a lot of the. I grew up with a lot of the things that you were talking about, which is like for me, a lot of games growing up. I think especially once I hit like middle school, high school, like most of that time I was spending like on call with friends. Now, like I was on the computer, so like we were on Skype because Discord didn't exist yet. So we would sit on Skype and like I'd have 12-hour days where I was like, it's a Saturday, I'm sitting on Skype with a friend of mine and like we're just like chatting and we're still friends now. And to Dempsey's point, like I don't think that was disruptive to my life. I was socially engaging with people. Now, is it, I think, the healthiest thing for my physical health to be seated in front of a computer screen all day? Probably not. But I don't think it was like negatively affecting my life in other ways. To the point of even now, like there's certain relationships to games and stuff that I have, I think, an unhealthy relationship with. I think I maybe have just gotten over this one. I think I have like unhealthy relationships to other form of media. Like I think I need to like stay off of YouTube more than I currently do. I need to like, I try to stay away from like algorithm driven platforms. Like I try and stay off like the For You page or the like explore pages of like social media, because you could just get like lost in there. A couple years back, I had to like, I stopped myself from going on like the Reddit homepage and like the Reddit all page, because I just realized I was literally spending like hours just like scrolling those. And I'm like, oh, there's like no value here.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, Seth. Like, if the thing that you're putting your time into is a time suck, that like sometimes you can get lost in a game. We talked about escapism recently and flow state, and how, you know, it can be such a great experience to get sucked in and really zone out, and like before you know it, you know, hours have passed and you've had this great time. But I think it's easy to find yourself in a situation where you're mindlessly scrolling, or you're playing Noida and you're not actually enjoying it, but you're pouring all of this time into it and you're not getting the benefit that you're looking for from it, whether that's the experience or knowledge or whatever. So even though it's not actively harmful, you're not using your time the way that you actually want to. That's really easy to do.
Yeah, and on that point, Katie, is something I also want to pitch to you guys. So, like, one of the reasons I eventually made my way off of, like, the Reddit homepage and the Reddit front page, I think speaks to a little bit of what Katie's saying, and I'm going to sort of reframe it under this idea of, like, value. Like, I just really wasn't seeing the value of being on those pages, and I said, you know what, I think I would get more value out of my time if I was like playing a game I might enjoy. Or one of the reasons I've tried to like wean myself off of YouTube over time is I've been like, I really don't think there's a lot of value other than like some entertainment value, some maybe like a little bit of escapist value by like, hey, like I enjoy these creators, I'll watch them. But like I could get an equal amount of value if I was to like pare down my movie list or like watch whatever the popular show for the zeitgeist is, because then I could like engage in some meaningful conversations about that. So does this idea of like that kind of value play into like what games you think about or like kind of how you spend your time?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. Definitely playing more thoughtful games. It makes it less likely you will, I think, ruin your time or get into an unhealthy rut like that. A lot of the most popular and successful games really reward addictive tendencies. And so I think branching out and playing like more interesting, more experimental, like more quote unquote artsy game that are more focused on giving you a curated narrative experience or curated emotional experience. It doesn't set you up to invest your time like something like Fortnite or like a lot of like online games do. And that might be my personal bias against like games as a service games. If I happen to be into like games as a service, I definitely would spend a lot more time feeling like I'm getting a lot less value out of how I am spending my time, simply because those games are designed specifically to only reward the most addictive behaviors possible. And
Yes.
I think
Absolutely.
also this is why society in general and specifically educators should know a little bit more about video game, like and parents and should know a little bit more about video games, because kids are, not all kids obviously, but a lot of kids, maybe like half of kids or whatever, are going to want to play video games of some sort. And a lot of parents don't know which games to let their kids play. So they'll just let them play Roblox or Fortnite or whatever's the most popular because that's what their kid is aware of. The thing that their kid is going to be the most aware of is also the thing that is the most exploitative. And so
Yes.
to be able to have like a little bit of a vocabulary to be like, actually, like maybe I can get my kid into like playing these experiences that have a little bit more like value to them, like these narrative experiences or these narrative experiences or these interesting puzzles
Or skill-based games like Seth likes to play, where you have to develop that.
Yeah, I think there's like a sense of accomplishment there. That's one of the reasons why it's good for people who have kids to know a little bit more about video games. So then they're just not letting their kid play whatever.
Yeah, I agree, because especially like in that young age, they're really wiring their brains and how they're going to get and how they seek out dopamine and where they get their dopamine from. And so I think, like, I know from my own experience with Warzone, man, that game was so addictive because when you win, man, there is nothing like it. There's like, you get the adrenaline rush. There is this like huge dump of happy endorphins and dopamine, and it makes you want to go again. And if you don't win, you think, oh, maybe next time. The gambler is then engaged. You're like, maybe next time I'll win. That was close. I could do it next time. I just got unlucky. But then when you're a kid and you're playing something like that, like your brain's not as capable of saying like, okay, that was fun. I can go do something else. It gets addicted to finding dopamine in the quickest, most accessible way possible. And so I think that's why you find kids that are like, Roblox looks like the most boring game of all time, but kids are obsessed with it because it
Totally.
preys on that. For sure.
Yeah, and there's a lot of as much as I feel like it's weird to say, I still feel like we're in like the early internet still. I know it doesn't really feel like that, but it's crazy to me to think like the internet is really like not much older than I am. And like the .com bubble was in like the early 2000s. And so I think we still have a lot to go, both for, to the point of what Dempsey's saying, like video game media literacy, but also just like internet bias literacy and like internet media literacy in general. Because, I mean, I fall into this trap too. Like, I'll be scrolling through the internet and I'll read something and I'll be like, oh, that's cool. And I don't stop to think, like, I wonder if that's true. Like a video comes up in my YouTube shorts and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And the part of my brain doesn't activate. The like skeptic part of my brain doesn't activate, which is weird because like I don't consider myself to be like a major skeptic, but like I have an education degree. It's a science certification. Like,
yeah, you teach science.
Science is based on that kind of like healthy skepticism. And that part of the brain just doesn't trigger for me until somebody later makes the point of like, hey, like that's just not true. And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. Or I had this problem all the time when I was browsing Reddit that, you know, aside from like the most upvoted post being at the top, there's no difference that this is the most voted post, and this is the least upvoted post. You know, they look the same on the website other than the little number next to it that says like plus or minus. So I find myself like reading all the comments on a thread and giving the same value to the person who has 500 upvotes to the person who has -10. Which I don't know if it's a failure of any system other than mine.
I think our brains are, and this is just my own observations, I am not a science teacher, but I think our brains are so overloaded constantly with, with information for one thing, and access to information, obviously through the internet and all of the means that we have of accessing media, to the point that I think it's hard when you're just being flooded with stimulus all the time. It's really hard to sort through what's valuable, what's pertinent, what's reliable, and what isn't. And I think I run into that even when I'm gaming. Like, I think I have 200 games in my Steam library now, which I only got in the summer. I only got Steam in the summer, and I have more games than I could reasonably ever play, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet I
and you play
scroll
like
through
the
and
same
I'm like,
3 games.
I do. I play the same games, or I scroll through and I think, I have nothing to play. It's like a fridge full of food and thinking, nothing to eat.
And I think boot up Bloons Tower Defense.
I'm going to play Bloons Tower Defense because it doesn't cost me anything energy-wise to play Bloons Tower Defense. And I'm so overwhelmed from everything else in life and all of the other things that are bombarding us through, mostly, a lot of the times through my phone, that I could shut off if I just chose to. But I think that unhealthy relationship we're talking about, I have that definitely with like social media and things like that, to the point that my brain's just fried. I'm like, I'm going to play Bloons Tower Defense.
I think on like another side of this, I think social media and like the gaming community also gives me like a little bit of tools to fight that like apathy and just like passivity towards like, because like I get cool recommendations and like whatever, like if there's interesting discourse about a game culturally, that I will be more likely to engage in, and I will have more reason to engage with more interesting experiences. I think for me, like an example of that was Baldur's Gate, which I would have never played had it not been for the discourse. I wasn't a fan of the studio. In my head, D&D games always have like a bad, like in my head, D&D games are like, have like a bad reputation.
It was
and
true.
also like I'm not a fan of CRPGs, and so it was totally like the community upswelling around that game that like I got caught up in, but I'm very happy it did. And I watch my like news aggregators come out and be like, these are the games that are out this week, and I can see like, oh, this looks interesting to me. So I think like obviously it's overwhelming, and humans are not made to have access to this much information, and we develop bad biases to try to make sense of all this information. But I think sometimes we can find ways to make it helpful to us.
I was going to say, I think it's just part of the value conversation. Like there's something to be said about like, hey, I'm going to curate my experiences to be more valuable. And I think part of that for me is sometimes I do go through and I look at like, okay, who am I subscribed to on YouTube? And I think about it on the lens of like, does following this person like bring value to my YouTube experience? Because I think there's definitely a lot of creators in which that is certainly the case. I mean, like if I even just take a quick look at my YouTube subscriptions right now, like I follow Hank and John Green. Mm-hmm. No matter what platform I follow them on, I feel like they give value to that platform. Yes. Mm-hmm. Like I follow their Twitter accounts, I follow them on Instagram, I follow them on their YouTube, and like pretty much everything they produce, I'm like, I feel like I get some sort of value off of watching this. But I haven't gone through my YouTube in a while and cleared people out, but there's a lot of people here who I'm like, I don't know if I really get value out of following this person anymore. I think they're there because I haven't taken them off the list, and I think I would actually get more value if I curated this list and said, like, hey, here's the people I actually enjoy watching.
So do you think that we're talking about like choosing things that add value to our lives? So do you think to engage with things that don't necessarily, I guess by our own metrics, it has to be an individual metric, doesn't necessarily add value to life? Do you feel like that's an unhealthy thing?
That's a tricky question. I think it's a fallacy as well to assume that like I'm only allowed to enjoy things that add value to my life.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, capitalist.
Yeah, I think that's a very like modern capitalist mindset to be like, this thing's only valuable to me if it holds some sort of value. I think that there's a
There's a space for that.
There's a space for that, I think, but I think it also I think it's like an extension of the like art is allowed to exist for the sake of being art. Like things are allowed to exist without having like inherent or like assigned value. So on the point being like, yeah, I think something doesn't need to be valuable to my life in order for me to consider it like a healthy part of like my existence. Like I'm allowed to enjoy some of these creators because they're fun and entertaining. They don't provide any value. I'm the only person I know who watches them. Like I don't get any like social value out of it. I get some entertainment value, but like I could just get as much entertainment value anywhere else. But hey, I enjoy watching it, so like, you know, whatever. I'm gonna kill some time doing it, and that'll be that. But that's not unhealthy. Like there's plenty of things that I think everybody does every day that you're like, I don't think this really has a ton of value, but I do it because I do it, and like, what the hell?
I think it's like, I think what I look out for is mindlessness. If I can do something mindlessly, it's probably not something that I want to be giving a lot of my time to. Because those are the kinds of things that end up leaving me feeling more drained and not as like refreshed or whatever. If I'm doing something mindlessly, like if I'm on Reddit mindlessly scrolling, when I realize that it's been an hour, I'm like, oh shit, that's not how I wanted to spend my hour. I would have rather have been doing something different.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But I don't tend to feel that way when I'm playing a game. I think because I only play games that I like. So like even if I'm playing Bloons Tower Defense, like I don't just sit and play that. I usually do it either like if I'm waiting, like we had to go to the eye doctor earlier this week and it took forever. And so I was like, oh, I have Bloons. This is great. And so that was nice. Or I'm like listening to something and then it's like it's really more than it's something to do with my hands while I listen because that helps me to focus. But otherwise, like I tend to play things that I enjoy giving my attention to. And so then it's not a mindless waste of time, even if it's a silly game.
Yeah, I think there's this weird part of my head that, and like, I think the problem is I know this. Like I can physically state this and acknowledge it, but I still fall back on it, is like, let's say we finish up with this podcast. It'll be probably about 10 p.m. local time for me. I'm likely going to go to bed around 12. I could 100% boot up Noida, play it for 2 hours, go to bed. I'm going to feel a lot different than if I hop off my computer. I have a book that I've been meaning to read on my nightstand. And if I read that book for those 2 hours, I'm going to feel very different. And I think I'm going to feel like I spent a more valuable use of my time if I actually sit down and read the book I've been meaning to read. But like, it's so much easier to just like sit here and play Noida.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much easier to pick like that thing I feel like has less value.
Yeah. You know what we have to do? And I know this works because this is what YouTubers like people who play games professionally talk about. They talk about how once they start doing it professionally, it wasn't fun to do in their personal lives anymore. Like game journalists and like people who review for IGN talk about that a lot. How like because they have to because they have to play games for work, they are less likely to get addicted to it outside of work. Which I think is very funny. So you just have to make this like a job, and then you'll play less annoyed at.
No, thank you. No.
I don't think I could do content creation for like a job. I think I would just fucking keel over.
I've been editing the same TikTok video for I won't even say how long. Weeks. It's coming, Dempsey. I promise. It's cute.
One of the things I know we're out of time. One of the things that I think about when we have this conversation of like, what does unhealthy gaming look like, and where in our lives do we feel like gaming is unhealthy? I do have a bit of a resistance to even interfacing with that question. I grew up in a town where like it was just assumed that all video games were unhealthy, like very rural attitudes towards like technology in general. So my fight is to be like, no, people who play video games don't struggle with being addicted to video games, and people who play and so I think I definitely mentally kind of overcorrect for that simply because I have been fed so much of like video games are bad for you, video games are like inherently evil or whatever. I obviously don't think that's true, but I do think there is unhealthy ways to play video games, and I think that like that's a conversation that is really important to have in gaming spaces. I do think I am like hesitant to have those because I'm so like protective over like the view of video games and like how I view myself in the context of like my community with video games, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally. I don't come from the same experience, but so my mother is not like anti video game, but growing up, I think it was very much a circumstance where like my brother and I played a lot of video games, and honestly, I think my brother probably played a lot. My brother played a lot more video games than I did, and I think in a lot unhealthier way than I did, but. You know, from the understandable perspective of my mother, she's like, I have two very intelligent, gifted young men who should probably be like reading books and like studying for their SATs. And instead they're just like spending 12 hours on a Saturday, like sitting in front of a computer and like playing video games, which like, you know, at the time that I'm like 15, 16, and I'm like, Mom, I'm talking with my friends on the computer. It's not the same. And now, like, I can look at that retrospectively and be like, no, like I get it. We could have like hung out in person. The guy lives like 5 minutes away from me.
Oh, that's funny. I was raised, everybody in my family were already gamers by the time I came along. So I never had that feeling of like, oh, you shouldn't be playing games. But I find that anything that you hyper focus on to the exclusion of other things is going to be a problem, is an unhealthy thing. Like, I actually stopped reading books for a really long time because I didn't want to feel that compulsion to read the way that I would feel when I would read a really good book. And I would when I was in high school, I would call in sick to work so that I could read a book. I would cancel plans. Like, I know, but that was how I interfaced with books to a degree that I was like, you know what? I actually can't do this. And now I mostly listen to audiobooks for the same reason, because I can listen during dedicated times, like when I'm driving, and I don't get sucked into that as much because I'm so prone to that. And I think that because of my nature, I'm very careful with gaming that I try not to fall into that so much. But it's anything I think can be, whether it's a valuable quote unquote enterprise or not, it can be disruptive to your life for sure. You just have to find that balance.
All things in moderation.
Even moderation.
I've heard that. It's in a book somewhere. Exactly.
Anyway, I think we definitely have areas for further research, but those might be topics for another day.
Yeah. Good job, guys. Good job, Dempsey. Poor
As
Dempsey hacking
Dempsey's,
up a lung.
yeah, hacking up a lung here. Katie,
He's
you want to
going
get
to
us closed
artfully-
out?
I do. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Overthinking Games, a podcast about what video games can teach us. I hope that you found some value today in listening to our episode. We sure had fun making it. If you want to send us an email, we would love to hear from you, and our email is in the show notes. You can find us on TikTok and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the places that you listen to podcasts. And you can join us next time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Clean out your YouTube subscribers.
I'm looking at myself in the webcam and I look so sick. Maybe I don't look sick.
I think it's just the lighting.